Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Now, there seems to be an unwritten and unspoken rule or agreement to never probe or ask serious questions about Nigerian presidents as they leave office. We have successfully accepted a culture of finding scapegoats within each exiting administration and using those scapegoats to paint the new administration to seem like they're totally anti-corruption, which of course always turns out to be a lie. And then the people who presided over the complete mess in the previous administration simply fade away and live happily ever after. That seems to be the culture. Every Nigerian says it, either loudly or in whispers, the numerous allegations against each successive administration and president. During each campaign, we hear it loud on stage across the country, spokesmen and women talking about the rampant corruption in the administration that they are trying to replace. And then they routinely pick a few individuals from the previous administration. Nigerians, of course, then enjoy the EFCC dance, which still ends up at nothing. It's important to mention that corruption allegations aren't the only things to focus on when we're talking about the crimes of every successive administration in Nigeria. Corruption just turns out to be the most popular. Successive governments or presidents have mismanaged Nigeria's oil sector, acting as ministers of petroleum. If you remember also, the Obasanjo government was accused of mismanaging billions of dollars meant for power. They call it $16 billion. The Buhari administration presided over the attack on Shiites, leading to the killing of more than 500 of them in Zaria. That was one of Nigeria's saddest days. And of course, that should help you remember the actions of the army in Odi in 1999 and Zakibiam in the year 2001. Now, back to corruption. We've moved, from Sambo Dasuki, and of course, the crimes that he was accused of, and of course, Dezani Alice Madueke also. Now we're speaking about Godwin Emefiele, and this continued, of course, the same EFCC dance. Somehow, some way, just agreeing with ourselves to grant some spiritual amnesty to those who were really in charge of those governments. Not one of them, over time, has had a second in our courts to at least be made to answer questions and maybe be found innocent. I would bet you that if the late Sani Abacha was alive today, he would likely be in some big mansion in Kano State, even as more and more hundreds of millions of dollars that he laundered are being sent back to Nigeria. So once again, I'm asking, is there an agreement? Is there, some, agreement that we had with ourselves as Nigerians that presidents should never have to answer questions? They should never be accused of anything. Once they leave office, you can talk to every other person around them in their administration, but never the president himself. You can blame Godwin Emefiele and everybody, but you can never accuse, former President Muhammadu Buhari. You can blame the former administration, but never mention Goodluck Jonathan's name or have him, answer any questions. From the allegations of bribery from Halliburton, if you remember, to Siemens in the Obasanjo government, which also named Atiku Abubakar in that case, to the Malabo allegations, the $2.1 billion under Goodluck Jonathan, to, of course, our latest ex-president. Maybe it's shame, maybe it's respect, maybe it's tribal sentiments, or maybe just some agreements that are made just before handovers. Or maybe it's all of the same. If you remember a couple of years ago, in 2015, former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi was convicted of bribing a senator. In 2006, of course, that's when that crime occurred. In 2016, Brazilian Senate impeached Dilma Rousseff, who was the country's first female president, removed her from office for the rest of her term on charges of manipulating the federal budget. In March 2017, a former South Korean President Park Geun-hye was arrested and jailed over a high-profile corruption scandal that saw her ousted from office. She spent a couple of years in jail and was eventually pardoned in 2021, I believe. So once again, Nigerians, does our commitment to unity and stability unintentionally become a shield for those who once held the highest office? Are we, in essence, immune to questioning the actions of those who guided the nation's destiny? This is not a challenge to the notion of respect for former leaders, but rather a call for introspection. Should the weight of past titles shield individuals from the scrutiny that others bear? Is it some unwritten law in Nigeria? Is it an understood convention that we dare not break? Or is it maybe time that we reassess our unspoken agreements and hold every single one of them accountable, regardless of their once held positions? We're currently dancing around with God Emefiele with multiple corruption allegations. Many have also mentioned that almost everything the former CBN governor is accused of doing, he very likely did it with the approval of the former president. So are we going to believe now that we have continuously had angels and saints as presidents who can do no wrong, can never steal, can never mismanage anything, even when hundreds of Nigerians are killed under their watch and murdered under their watch? We should never mention their names because they're angels, they're saints who just unfortunately had thieves under them as their appointees. I'm no lawyer, but this just doesn't make any sense. And so once again, I ask, is there an unspoken agreement or rule to never, ever accuse or charge any past president of anything, even though the country has continuously gotten worse? The theft and the corruption has gotten worse, and so has the nation under their watch. If there is this unspoken rule, please can anybody share those documents with us? Good morning, Nigeria.